The time is now 7 o'clock.
Kids are in the middle of spring break, with many graduating from their respective schools, right? But with the weather and all that studying going on, many kids are at home or otherwise indoor bound, with many entertaining themselves on screens or those devices. But one study from Finland says that, yes, it's important to reduce such screen time and increase physical activity, not only for their physical health, but also mental health. Yes, I know, it's easier said than done, but in this age of hyper-connection, disconnecting from devices and having time outdoors is more important than ever. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Monday, February 17th on BEFM, 부산영어방송. Good morning, Wavers. I hope you had a good weekend. And for those of you who have children at home, you are smack in the middle of spring break right now, right? Well, how have you and your children been spending this spring break thus far? Are you all surviving? 다 살아있죠? We all know that we should put our screens down and go outside. In theory, we know this. We know this by heart. And this is really important for teens. Here is an interesting study conducted by Jyväskylä University in Finland, published in the JAMA Network Open in the U.S. That's the Journal for American Medicine. And so the team tracked 187 Finnish children between the ages of 6 and 9 for 8 years, studying their physical activities, habits, and mental health. And so the study looked at their physical activity, sitting or sedentary behavior, sleep, food, screen time, as well as their stress and anxiety levels. So what did the results show? They showed that there was a correlation between screen time and stress and anxiety, whereas there was an inverse correlation between physical activity and stress and anxiety. So the research team showed that there is a relationship between how much time children spend looking at screens and how much time they spend being active, and how stressed or anxious they felt during their teenage years. So anxiety and depression, according to the team, can occur commonly during one's adolescence and young adulthood, affecting up to 30% of all teens and young adults. Researchers therefore emphasized the importance of reducing screen time and spending time being active at a young age. Excuse me. So, I mean, do we really need a study to tell us? We kind of know this by heart by now, right? We need to be more active. But we have now this study to back our theory up. For a text topic, we're going to go back to this topic because it is definitely graduation season right now. So if you have students around you or, kids around you, I'm asking you this. What do kids these days want as graduation/admission gifts? 네. So what do you remember getting when you graduated? And we can definitely go into the latte. When I was in school back in the day, we can do that. 요즘 인기 있는 졸업이나 입학 선물은 뭐예요? When you were in school, whether it was graduating from elementary, going into middle or middle to high school, and if you went to college, what was like trendy back then versus what do kids want now? Any memorable gifts? So, yes, send in your responses to BFM's live stream live chat on YouTube. Go to the platform, search for BEFM 부산영어방송. You'll see our logo. Click on that to subscribe and also to log in and chat away with our other waivers. Also, pound 9050, shop 9050. That's going to cost you 100 won. You can also reach me for free through our Kakao Talk channel as well. For this, go to 친구 찾기, find a friend, type in BEFM, and then add us as a friend. You can send in your messages and also photos as well. The ways you can listen to us. So many different ways. On the radio, if you're in Busan, 90.5 or 103.3 FM. And like I just said, we are streaming live as we speak right now on YouTube. You can watch again at your leisure. Also, we have two apps, our BFM app itself and also the Patbang app, which you can download for free, very easy to access to listen to our program. Looking ahead to our Monday morning together. So what do we have for you? We have Michael coming in for Showbiz Buzz. We also have Bobby for business perspective, not showbiz. That's all with Michael in hour number 1. For our special interview, there's a lot going on in the Ukraine war because with the new administration, the Trump administration in the U.S., the dynamics of this war are changing as we speak. The European leaders are convening an emergency summit to address the escalating tensions. So we're going to talk about this, what this means for Ukraine and, of course, Russia and everybody. This is coming up in hour number 2. I'll be back with today's headlines. It's 7:06. These are today's headlines. Pro and anti-impeachment rallies held in historic street in Gwangju. Crowds of protesters held rallies on the historic street at the May 18th pro-democracy uprising in Gwangju on Saturday, both for and against the ouster of President Yoon Suk-yeol. Busan hotel fire likely started in utility room. A joint investigation revealed that a deadly fire at the Banyantree hotel construction site in K-자동차 County that killed 6 people likely started in a utility room for plumbing equipment. U.S. Secretary of State affirms confidence in acting President Choi Sang-mok. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Saturday reaffirmed his confidence in South Korea's acting President Choi Sang-mok and the strength of the bilateral alliance and reiterated America's commitment to the complete denuclearization of North Korea. Coast Guard finds 2 suspected victims of fishing boat fire. The Coast Guard has found 2 bodies that are suspected of being among those missing from a fishing boat fire in waters off the southwestern coast of Busan last Thursday. Ukraine won't attend U.S.-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia. Ukrainian officials will not attend Russia-U.S. talks to be held in Saudi Arabia in the coming days as President Volodymyr Zelensky says he would not accept any deal without his country's input. These are today's headlines. It's now time to check in with Sue for Busan Updates. Let's say hi to her first. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you had a restful weekend.
I did. I had a busy weekend with friends.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about a graduation. You can tell us either, back in the day, 나때는 라떼, I got this, and this was a really special gift, or maybe some people out there you might think I didn't really get a special gift.
Well, I remember getting a really nice sporty bag for my middle school.
For middle school?
For middle school admission. So it was memorable. And now I see these days that students are getting new bags or new shoes. And another trend, I think this is a trend. Also, they go away. Parents say, this is our graduation gift. Let's go to Jeju-do, or let's go to Japan, trips abroad.
I have definitely noticed that, kids like who are younger than, like, say back in the day are requesting these kind of experiences, these trips as well.
Okay.
And then I've also noticed, like, they want the iThing phone or they want the iThing device.
Right.
Those are like really expensive.
Yes.
But it's kind of like, well, everybody else has a kind of attitude. I don't know. But, you know, the whole point of today's like overview is like we need to spend less time on our devices. So it's
True.
a difficult one. All right, so let's talk about this top story. So obviously, many people have heard about this story. A fire broke out at a luxury villa-style resort construction site right here in Busan, the 반얀트리 Haeundae Busan, which was set to open later this year, right?
Yes. So this happened on the 14th, resulting in 6 deaths and 27 injuries. The fire began around 10:51 a.m. in a
Yes.
building under construction in the Osiria tourist complex in Gijangun, and 127 fire trucks and 352 firefighters were deployed to control the fire, and it was completely extinguished after about 8 hours at 6:53 p.m. on the 14th. And a total of 100 people evacuated, with 14 rescued by helicopter from the roof.
So unfortunate to hear about these deaths and injuries, of course. Well, we need to know more about the resort itself and the construction, what had been happening up to this point.
Yes. First of all, the construction companies, Samjung Corporation and Samjung ENC, were going to open a luxury resort with 3 basement floors to 12 ground floors with 195 rooms, offering 5-star or higher facilities, and it was scheduled to open this May. And Busan City is providing support to the victims and their families through disaster relief funds and emergency welfare services. And the Busan Metropolitan Police Agency has formed a dedicated investigation team to expedite the probe. And it's led by the chief of the criminal task force. The team includes forensic experts and consists of about 30 members. And additionally, the Busan District Prosecutor's Office, Dongbu branch, has set up its own investigation team with 10 prosecutors and 15 investigators. And the Busan Employment and Labor Office is also looking into whether there were violations of the Serious Accident Punishment Act. And the investigation is expected to involve the construction company as well as the subcontractors related to the deceased workers.
Right. Well, do we know what might be the cause of the fire?
So for now, according to a police official, the point of origin has been identified as the area around the pipes in the PT room, and the exact causes of the fire will be determined after reviewing witness statements from the workers and verifying the site entry times through CCTV footage.
Right, so we're thinking, once again, according to what they've said thus far, a utility room is where it might have broken out. Of course, we'll continue to follow the story. Next, let's talk about this is Busan Superintendent by-election and preliminary candidates. They've been focusing on policy differentiation instead of unification.
Right. So with both progressive and conservative camps failing to unify their candidates in the election, preliminary candidates are announcing their key policies in an effort to distinguish themselves from their competitors. So 6 candidates have registered so far, and I will go briefly explain about their campaign promises. So candidate Jeon Young-gun plans to create an innovative educational space and remodel Norimaru, which is arts and culture programs for students, into a public education hub. Candidate Park Jong-pil advocates for AI textbooks by integrating AI-based education. And candidate Cha Jung-in pledges to reduce class sizes to under 20 for lower elementary grades, expand educational staff, and restructure unnecessary education office projects. Candidate Kim Seok-jun aims to bridge the education gap between East and West Busan and establish Busan as an AI education hub. Candidate Park Soo-jong focuses on improving science and technology education and address bureaucratic inefficiencies. And lastly, candidate Hwang Wook prioritizes AI, coding, and creativity education while proposing student health initiatives. So each candidate is striving to distinguish themselves through their respective education reform proposals.
Right, and as we know here in Korea, education is so important for everybody. So hence the focus on this position. All right, next up, let's talk about Busan Libraries planning to offer diverse lifelong learning programs.
Right. So public libraries are launching many learning programs for residents of all ages. So first of all, Busan Citizens Library, Busan 시민 도서관, from March to June, it will offer both in-person and online via Zoom programs for over 560 participants, like including infants, elementary students, and adults. And these programs are for enhancing community skills, focusing on reading and humanities.
Yes.
So people can join reading, language, and arts programs, including evening courses for working professionals.
Yes, and what about the Kupo Library?
Right. From March to December, they will they will offer 12 after-school programs, 늘봄 programs focusing on reading, literacy, English stories, and critical thinking math, creative science, history, and art for elementary school students.
Yes.
And the registration period ends on the 25th of this month. And people can apply via Kupo Library website. And for adults, there will be 10 courses covering writing, history, languages, and digital skills.
Oh, very helpful. Yes, indeed. What about the Saha Library? I hear they have something also.
Right. So from March to June 28th, they will offer spring semester programs.
Okay.
And it's offered both online and offline. So there will be 12 courses for creative play for infants, educational media programs for students, and job support courses for adults. And seniors can also join a smartphone workshop.
You know, I've actually had a person who took a smartphone workshop, and she was saying how helpful it was for her at this particular, library. It was like a 10-week course, but she was saying it was really, really helpful.
Oh, that's nice.
Digital, literacy is important for all ages, but especially for seniors.
Yes.
All right, next let's talk about this. The 2025 Busan Startup Expo. It's going to be held at Bexco, which is here in Hyundai, of course, right?
Yes. So the event will be held from April 24th to 26th and feature a variety of industries. So food service, cafes, education, services, and retail and business industry will be featured, reflecting the latest trends such as robotic vending machines and WIN solution. So this is contactless solutions, means systems or services designed to operate without human intervention.
Right.
So the expo will offer latest startup information and one-on-one consultations between franchise headquarters and aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yes, and so how can people participate in this?
So for advanced registration, for free entry is available until April 17th on the official Busan Startup Expo website. And the second half of the event is scheduled to take place from September 25th to 27th.
I see. So thanks for letting us know about this one. All right, lastly, let's talk about this. Gyeongnam Province, as of February 14th, so this started on February 14th, announced that the mobile registration card, the resident registration card service, is available. So we need details.
Yes. So the program was initially piloted in 9 municipalities last December. So following the citizens of Gyeongsang County last year, all residents of Gyeongnam Province can now receive a mobile resident registration card. So it is now available in all 18 cities and counties across the region.
Right.
And it will be available nationwide by March 28th.
Yes. And so how can people be issued their mobile cards?
So first way is residents aged 17 and older can visit their local administrative center with their physical card to receive the mobile version by scanning a QR code.
I see.
This is very simple. And another way is starting March 28th, residents can also tag their mobile phones with an IC chip card for issuance, and a 10,000 won fee will be applied if they don't have an IC chip card. So this is IC chip is like a microchip embedded in the physical card.
Yes.
So to do this, you need to obtain the IC resident registration card. Then tag the card to your mobile phone to issue the mobile version.
I see. So I'm sure if you're a little confused, someone will be there to help you.
Yes.
If you are challenged in those ways. But thank you for all the information, and we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
All right, it's now time for your traffic and weather. Time for your traffic report right now at 7:19 on Monday morning. There's an accident that's being reported on the Dongso overpass going out of the city right past the Munhyun ramp. So please be aware of this area. Be careful. Congestion on Gwangnam-lo from KBS 3-way intersection to Dongbang 5-way intersection. There's some traffic building up on the Dongso overpass from Seomyeon to the old Daegum toll gate as well. Looking quite slow on Chungnyeol-daero from Daeseong to Minam intersection. Also congested on Nakdong-daero from Hadan station to Seodaeshin station in both directions. Currently, it is 3 degrees Celsius under clear skies. The daytime high is expected to go up to 8 degrees Celsius, with the real full temperatures in the minus territory because of the wind chill factor. There is a dry weather special alert in Busan right now. Looking across the country, a sudden drop in temperatures by about 5 to 10 degrees Celsius from yesterday, with strong winds forecast across the nation. This was your traffic and weather.
Are you an early bird? Are you up to date on the news? Are you a trendsetter? For all of the biggest issues from Busan to the world and useful information you need, right here on Morning Wave in Busan.
It is time for News Digest. We have Haley in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, so we're talking about graduation. So back in the day, back in your day.
Way back when. All right, let's
Okay,
go
let's-
back
yes,
about
think.
a decade. When I went from high school to university, laptops. Yeah, you guys kind of had to.
Yes.
Right, because you're
한국에서는 노트북이라고
notebook,
부르죠.
right?
And
So
it's
laptops.
Yes.
And then I think Layla reminded me when we went to like middle school, high school. It was the era of MP3 players. We didn't have the smartphones. It was definitely the MP3 players. And we started with like, can it fit? What do you mean it can fit 100 songs? That's incredible to like thousands and then smartphones. Yeah, but then speaking of smartphones,
Yes.
when my little sister graduated high school, went to college. Yeah, I think I bought her a smartphone. I bought her a phone, a new phone. She's 21, 2. I don't know how old you are. You're young, but so yeah.
Yeah.
And she's
I was
just
like trying to
something.
do the math. I'm
She's
like,
just something. Yeah. So she's
that
like in her
is.
early 20s. So it was, yeah. I was like, oh, I guess we're buying phones now.
I was really surprised, like listening to my niece who just graduated from elementary school. Right, I remember I told you I went to her graduation ceremony, and like she was happy with the gifts. She was grateful, and then I heard her talking to her mom later, my sister,
But
saying like I won't out her friends, but she's like, 얘는 엄마 뭐 제주도 갔다 온대. Like as Sue was saying, or like going
걔네 집 가서
abroad
살아.
for their graduation gift, right? And I was just like.
and then you're like, do you want to go ask if you can be adopted?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I heard my sister say, 그거는 그 아이의 가족 사정이고. And so what did my niece get? She got, I bought her a backpack.
Yeah.
See, our family, we love the Jan thing. That's just our go-to backpack. I grew up on that
Me
backpack,
too.
right?
Right?
And like my kids all, use that as well.
We're not sponsored.
No.
If they want to,
Right.
go ahead.
Yeah,
But,
but we're not gonna, say no. But anyway, and then like, what do we? The school supplies, shoes.
Yes.
Right, and then
The bags for the shoes.
and then my sister got and my brother-in-law, they bought her a new kind of like, in Korea we say padding, like a padded jacket,
right.
because it's still kind of gonna be cold when they start, and then like I was just like, isn't that enough?
Oh yeah, my
you
older
need more?
sister.
Yes.
My sister. She sent me a message through our mom
Yes.
that my nephew is in need of a new
padded jacket because I bought him the one that he is outgrowing. So I'm like, okay, all right, well then, okay.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, that's what's going on. We're going to jump into our first story, and this is the top story locally. It's about the 반얀트리 hotel construction site fire. And the reason behind why the fire was so fatal. We're talking about, 6 deaths,
Six
right?
people dead.
Yes.
So Sue talked about the facts of
Right.
the accident. So let's go into why. So when the firefighters got to the scene, and it only took them 9 minutes to respond to that call. But the fire was already blazing, having spread across building B, where it started from that so-called PT or the utility room to an adjacent building C. And apparently the smoke had filled the area completely. So the hotel was scheduled to open in May of this year, and apparently the inside was filled with construction material and interior designing materials.
Yes.
And you can see in photos released by the fire agency. So it's unclear whether all of these materials inside contributed directly to the fire or even as obstructions as people were trying to evacuate.
I see.
But the fire agency speculated that the material likely got in the way, contributing to workers getting disoriented and inhaling smoke as they were trying to navigate around the bulks of material there.
Yes.
And because it was still a construction site, the sprinklers, they don't seem to have worked.
That's so unfortunate. So what do we know about the contractors and the owner? Because it's very convoluted.
It is very much layered. So it is a 반얀트리 brand hotel, which is owned by Banyan Group. But the 반얀트리 Group currently doesn't have the operational rights because the hotel hasn't opened. So the project entirely is done by Lupentis Consortium with Samjang Construction acting as a contractor and PNK Investment a part of the investment side of things as well.
I see.
And here's the thing, because it has such a complicated ownership structure, there's question as to which company or companies will be in charge of the compensations and will take responsibility. And by the way, that might be why we have not heard any statement or apologies from any of these entities involved, which is quite rare given this is day 3 after
it's such
the
a tragic accident,
right. And it's also been reported that the temporary and day workers, the 일용직 workers, were allegedly not on the industrial accidents insurance. And that would be against the law if that were true.
Yes.
So the family of the deceased said that the company, Samjang, told them to get through the funeral procedures first, and then they can come to an agreement on compensations. So they expressed frustrations at not getting any answers.
Right, because we're talking about lives here,
Right.
and livelihoods. So, such an unfortunate incident. Of course, we'll continue to follow that story. Well, in the latest of these Trump's tariffs, U.S. President Donald Trump said that he may impose auto tariffs, which would directly hit South Korea.
Right. So on Friday local time, President Donald Trump said he could impose tariffs on auto imports beginning April 2nd.
Right.
This wasn't an announcement, by the way, but an answer to a reporter's questions. And as to even that date, we don't know if April 2nd is when he would announce these said tariffs or when the tariffs would go into effect. But and then we also don't know whether there'll be blanket tariffs like on steel and aluminum or depend on the country. By the way, last year, the U.S. imported $471 billion worth of auto products.
Yes, and so how will this affect South Korea?
Very much so, because South Korea is the third biggest exporter of vehicles to the United States at $37 billion worth.
Right.
So that's followed by top places Mexico, second Japan, and then South Korea. On the contrary, though, South Korea only imports about $2.1 billion worth of American cars. So that creates a near, in Korean won, 50 trillion won worth of trade deficit for the United States. And President Trump has really honed in on bridging or closing that gap on trade deficits.
Indeed.
So Mexico, Canada, and South Korea, they currently have duty-free access to the U.S. for most of their cars, assuming they meet the auto rules of origin provisions under the respective free trade agreements or FTAs. However, previous cases show that President Trump may see these FTAs as irrelevant. Trump has also previously taken issue with South Korea's various policies regarding auto imports and exports.
Oh, which in particular? Which ones does he have a problem
Right.
with?
So according to the U.S. Trade Representative, the USTR, their National Trade Estimate report last year, it actually mentioned South Korea's regulations on parts that have to do with emissions and random testing on American cars that are imported into South Korea.
I see.
So the report has expressed concerns about these random tests delaying exports. And also the U.S. doesn't have the value-added tax, VAT, on vehicles for consumers when they buy cars, but South Korea does.
Okay.
So that might be the cause for U.S. seeing this as duties on American cars and them kind of using that as a reason to impose tariffs.
Right, right. So that's where we are on this issue regarding Trump's tariffs. All right, let's move on to some international news. But of course, U.S. President Donald Trump still there, of course, because this story has to do with Russian President Vladimir Putin, that they may be meeting soon, actually, in person, but not at either of their respective countries.
Right. So actually, Reuters, in a breaking story just several minutes ago, about an hour ago, U.S. President Donald Trump said that his meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin may happen, quote, very soon.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be at the White House. It wouldn't be at the Kremlin. It would likely be in Saudi Arabia, which, geographically, not really in the middle
not really.
of the two countries. So behind this seemingly unlikely decision is Putin and Trump and Putin's respective relationships with Saudi Arabia's de facto leader, who is Crown Prince, the famous Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS.
Yes.
So going back to that bit of history, during Trump's first administration, Trump 1.0, he decided to visit Saudi Arabia as his first state visit, which was not an expected decision because it's usually done with traditional allies.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia, not a traditional ally of the U.S., to say the least.
Right.
Even defending MBS after the accusations of Saudi's state-sponsored murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Mohammed bin Salman was also Trump's first phone call with the foreign leader in Trump 2.0.
Well, what about bin Salman's relationship with Russia?
Right, so they've been solidifying their relationship amidst the war in Ukraine because Putin and bin Salman both called for reducing crude oil during Russia's sanctions-based economic crisis.
Right.
Saudi Arabia also has been playing mediator in Russia's war with Ukraine. It even brokered a hostage deal back in September of 2022.
Right.
And in Russia releasing a jailed American teacher earlier this month. Also for Mohammed bin Salman's part, he's been trying to expand his country's influence from just being a mega oil-rich country to one of major international power. He also visited South Korea, was it last year, including diplomatic soft power. So clearly, if this meeting is successful, this will be another major notch in his accomplishments.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you for going over all the relevant news for today. Of course, we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you, Haley.
See you in a bit.
All right. It's time for, yes.
No song.
Okay, so that's what she says. Okay, now it's time to go back to your text topic. Today we're talking about it being graduation season. So, there might be students around you. You might have kids in your family, or just what do kids want these days as their graduation or admissions gifts? So 요즘 인기 있는 졸업이나 입학 선물은 뭐예요? 그리고 여러분이 기억나는 본인의 your 졸업 입학 선물. For example, Tommy says until high school, he says backpack. And then university, laptop. That is true. But, looking at high schoolers, when you graduate from middle school to high school, a lot of the kids, they're asking for, the pads. Right, they are. I know some schools, they actually do give out pads for all their students. Like you can borrow one. They're in mint condition or they're sometimes new. However, that's what the kids want. They want those devices. It's an oxymoron because our whole overall story is we need to stay away from those devices. However, that's what it is. All right. For now, though, Umberto says, my nephew wanted just cash. Well, I'm curious, Umberto. 현금 왕이죠. 아닌가요? And then Clay and the Potter also says, cash in my days and new phones or gift tokens these days. Those gift cards. So I guess cash so far, getting a couple votes there. I'm curious, Umberto, your nephew. Like, what grade did he, or what did he graduate from? Or, what grade is he going into now? So let us know. In the meantime, here is Cat's Pick for today. Well, for today's story, I wanted to begin Monday morning with a not so terrible story. So today, I picked a very, very small story. It's out of Washington State. The school bus driver, he was driving on the 405 and something like really sudden happened. Something flew through the windshield at him as he was driving. And by the way, he was driving a bus of students and coaches for sports. So let's get to the clip from ABC News.
Oh, this was such a close call, especially considering the bus was going 60 miles an hour here on the highway in downtown Bellevue. I spoke with the driver today. He told me he knew he had to keep that bus under control and protect his passengers. It was an afternoon trip to a basketball game on I-405 in Bellevue when a seemingly normal bus ride took a scary turn. That is Stuart O'Leary in the driver's seat, injured but keeping the bus under control as the team's coaches run up to help.
I'm glad it was me, not them, any of my passengers.
Less than a week later, Stuart is back on the job.
I knew I was going to be okay, because it's certainly gone a different way. Fractions of a second, things change.
He snapped this picture as he was going into the ambulance.
So they were pulling glass out of my face and had some gauze on there trying to mop me up a little bit.
He walked away with glass cuts to his face, a serious bruise to the chest, and one wild story.
He's a hero. He's an absolute hero for keeping those kids safe.
His colleagues have put up signs to show how proud they are of him.
He never wavered. He kept his hands on the steering wheel, and his first priority were the kids.
The windshield is now on display in the bus office, and that piece of metal, Stuart gets to keep it.
Did it come from an overpass in the area? I don't have any idea.
While they haven't figured out where the piece of metal came from, one thing about this terrifying situation is crystal clear.
Kept the girls safe. That's what the job of a bus driver is, transporting students safely. And I did that. I'm pretty happy about that. None of them got hurt.
So as you heard in that clip, the good thing is he was okay. You got to see the footage of this where it literally goes and hits him like right in his chest area. The good thing is that two coaches on that bus, they were quick thinking. One of them was calling 911. The other was helping him make sure he wasn't swerving. And they remained so calm. And that's why this was not a tragedy, but a good story to start off our Monday this morning. This was Cat's Pick for today.
Stay tuned. You're listening to Morning Wave in Busan.
It is now time for Showbiz Buzz. We have Michael here in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
It's good.
Good?
Good.
What did you do? Share with us something. Come on, give us a little bit of something from our Titeminam.
Titeminam. Good.
Titeminam.
Yes.
Anything?
Busy. I can say busy.
Busy?
Because I have a new
Working?
work. I got a new job.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so last week was my first week.
So it's...
Yeah, so I had to go back and forth, Seoul and Busan, and but it's a lot of fun. It has a lot to do with music, so
Ooh.
yeah, I mean, I can't share the details because it's gonna turn out, then it's gonna be advertisement, so...
Okay.
Yeah, I can't do that, but it's music-related business.
Okay.
I'm having fun.
Oh,
I
we
have
wish
to
you the
recruit
best of luck.
new artists.
Oh.
So much fun.
New project.
Having that power.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. Thank you. Hey, we're talking about graduation today.
Graduation.
So, yes. So do you remember back in your day, okay, like what did you get that was like memorable, or what did people get? And then like, because these days, like kids want it all. They want cash, they want the gift cards, they want trips abroad, they want the backpack, they want the shoes, they want everything.
For graduation?
Yeah.
Well, many things have
해도
changed.
너무한 거 아니에요?
너무.
요즘 애들?
요즘 애들은 그래서 쯧쯧쯧쯧. 아 죄송합니다.
네.
Yeah, but
He's just kidding. Yes.
I am kidding. I mean,
Yes.
it's good to it's good to have that moment where you can feel like I want everything.
But you're not going to get it.
But you're not going to get it anyways. I mean, yeah, I'm just saying though. But
So what was popular back in your day? Do you remember?
well, it's very difficult for me to answer to this question because
I remember now.
I didn't go to middle and high school.
Right. You went home.
Yeah, I did homeschooling.
Homeschooling, yes.
So I have the GED, the General Education Diploma. But I did graduate from elementary school.
Yes.
이렇게 잘못 얘기하면 초졸인 줄 알 것 같은데.
아니에요.
Elementary school, yeah.
네, right.
For my graduation for elementary school, I remember getting those chocolate sticks as a gift.
Oh, the chocolate sticks.
Yeah, that was it though.
Really?
Yeah, I was happy.
You were happy. You were a simple kid.
I was a simple kid.
Like it.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, thank you so much,
Oh, for the
But
chocolate
back then
sticks,
they had
yes.
like on the back of the box,
Uh-huh.
there was a part where you can like write notes and messages. I didn't get it from my parents though.
Oh, you did? Was it even from your parents?
I got it, yeah. Oh, that's funny actually. Now that I think about it, I didn't get anything from my parents.
Oh.
But one of my hubes, like how do you
Like,
call
you
it?
know, Younger friend.
A younger friend.
Yes.
Gave me that as a
That's
graduation
nice.
gift, and she had this note like, 저 사실
오빠 좋아해요?
오빠 좋아했었어요. But that was back in elementary school, so we were all kids,
Oh, that's so
I had
cute,
no idea
though.
I didn't know what love was, I was like,
What is love?
What is this? I love the chocolate though. I remember loving the chocolate, but I had no idea that she had like that feelings towards me. It was like 20 years after.
It was novel.
Only then I realized.
You're like, that's
she was
what
in
that
love
was.
with me. Oh my goodness.
Oh, puppy love. 첫사랑이었네요. Maybe for her.
좀 미안하죠. Yeah, I didn't know. Like, I'm a simple man. I'm a simple guy,
그렇게 무시하고요.
It takes a lot of time for me to realize things,
Anyhow. Very interesting. I love these stories.
갑자기
네.
제가 나쁜 남자가 돼버렸네요.
네.
거절 안 하시네.
나쁜 남자가 아니라 그냥 뭐 좀 모르는 남자.
뭐 좀 모르는. Yeah, that's a better
that?
word to put it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to jump into our first news, and this was a shocker because I found out like last night.
Yeah.
And I was just like, is this a true story?
Yeah, I was writing my script and, I was going through the news articles for the last time.
Yes.
And this was like it came very at the last minute,
Right.
And it was a surprise and a very big shock to me. Actress Kim Sae-ron was found dead at her home Sunday, police said. The Seongdong police station in Seoul received a report around 5 p.m. that day and responded to the scene. Kim Sae-ron was found collapsed at her home in Seongdong-gu, Seoul, and was transported to the hospital, but was ultimately pronounced dead.
Yes.
The 24, she was 24 years old, and she was discovered by a friend who had plans to meet with her that day. The cause of death has not yet been determined. But many assume, including the police, that she may have resorted to, suicide.
Yes, is what's.
Yeah.
Yes.
So a police official stated that they are investigating the exact circumstances of her death. Kim Sae-ron had halted her activities as an actress after being fined 20 million won following a drunk driving incident in May 2022 in which she crashed into a street tree and a transformer before fleeing the scene.
Right.
She had been scheduled to make a comeback in the play 동치미 last May, but withdrew due to health reasons. And now the tragedy.
To me, it's so tragic. And I remember first seeing her on the screen. Was it 아저씨? Where I first saw her.
Yeah.
she played the role, a very important role
Yeah.
in that film where she was just
She was a rising star. She was a rising star,
Right.
and it's very heartbreaking to see, someone passing away. It's
Right,
a
before their
big
time.
it's a big tragedy for all of us. I mean, yeah, she went through a lot of things, like the drunk driving incident and all that.
Yes.
But nothing can really how do you say it? Nothing can justify
Just
someone's passing.
Right. When
Nothing.
it's so at
Yeah.
such a young age.
At such a young age,
At
especially.
any age, of course, but
Yeah.
once again, yes.
Yeah.
Very
So my condolences to her families and
Yes.
her loved ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. A shocking breaking news from last night.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on, though, for now. Move on to our next story. So this is regarding Squid Game, I hear.
Squid Game, yes.
Yes.
Squid Game production designer Choi Kyung-sun won an Art Directors Guild award. The awards organizer said Sunday. Choi received the Excellence in Production Design Award in the 1-hour contemporary single camera series category at the ADG Awards, held at Intercontinental Los Angeles downtown on Saturday. She was recognized for her work on episode 4 and episode 6 of the 7-part Squid Game
Yes.
season 2. This marks her second ADG win, actually, following her 2022 award for the series' outstanding and distinctive visuals.
Yes.
Earlier this month, Squid Game Season 2 won the Best Foreign Language Series at the 30th Annual Critics' Choice Awards. Squid Game is set to return for its third and final season on June 27th. So congratulations to Squid Game team.
Yes, indeed. And let's move into the music sphere. What's going on there?
So Blackpink, they've been doing a lot of solo activities, each members, right? And Jisoo of K-pop girl group Blackpink returned as a solo artist after 2 years with her new EP album, Amortage. Is that
What
the
does
right
that mean?
Amortage. So that means that's a blend of amor, the Spanish word for love,
Okay.
and montage to symbolize her work of art, composed of different elements.
Okay.
So, anyways, that's the name of that's the title of the album. So, Amortage was released 2 p.m. on Friday, marking Jisoo's first album since her solo debut single album Me, which featured the hit song Flower in 2023, and her first solo project under Blissu, her own agency for solo activities. The album consists of 4 tracks, 2 in Korean and 2 in English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for explaining the title. When I first saw it, just in passing right now, I was like, why is her song name A Mortgage? But it's Amortage.
So like I was doing my research, and
Okay.
at first I read it the same way, a mortgage.
like I was like,
Oh, no, but that's not it. I mean,
and
it's
then
not.
not just that, but like a mortgage is like, for me, I was just, because I was like,
Mortgage is
대출?
exactly
On your home? What is this?
It's a house. Yeah.
Taj.
Amortage.
Yes.
And sometimes not sometimes, almost every time, and I'm sure you've seen me do
Yes.
this. I read stuff wrong. Many times, especially when it comes to
yeah.
K-pop albums.
Right.
Because they come up with all sorts of mixed blends of words.
I mean, come on. I used to call H-O-T hot and G-O-D God, right? So I'm
God,
not going to blame you for
hot.
anything.
Yeah, I mean, but
Come
yeah.
on. Yes.
It's getting more and more difficult.
Especially like
God
all,
and hot is
okay compared
okay
to
compared to a mortgage.
and like what about like all the new groups these days?
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you pronounce their names?
Because like this girl group FX, for example.
Yes.
They're already an older group.
Yeah.
But they got symbols in between. How do you read
It looks
that?
like a math equation.
Exactly. It's like F
Yes.
F times X. No, that's
Right.
different. It's like
Exactly.
so yeah.
And yeah, let's move on to some other music news because we sound so old now.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's going on in the music world?
K-pop girl group aespa and Jennie of Blackpink have been chosen as recipients of the 2025 Billboard Women in Music Awards. Big stuff.
Yes.
According to the U.S. Music Magazine, the two are among 11 honorees at the annual event, which recognizes music's rising artists, creators, producers, and executives for their contributions to the industry and community.
Yes.
K-pop girl group aespa has been named Group of the Year, while Jennie is being honored as the winner of the Global Force Award. The award ceremony will take place March 29th at YouTube Theater at Hollywood Park in California. So this fun fact, the question I get. So this award is supposed to recognize music's rising artists, right? And creators and producers.
Yes.
Are they still rising?
Are they?
Or have they already been risen?
I don't know. Haven't they arrived?
Because rising artists, it should be given to people like me. I am rising.
Right. No, I'm staring at the screen because my producer wrote that. 이거 아직도 I always get confused. 015B?
015B.
Is that it? Okay.
Yeah.
Because the zero looks like an O sometimes. And then even with aespa, to me in my Americanized brain, aespa should be ESPA. I'm like, why is it AESPA?
So how would you pronounce that?
I don't know.
American way.
But for Aesop's, Aesop's fables and stuff, I don't know. There's
Aesop.
Right. So it's kind of like, why is it aespa?
It's not aespa. It's an aespa.
I wish they would do. And then Haley mentions a producer wrote Tomorrow by Together, TXT, 투바투, 그건 알아요.
TXT, I didn't know that.
And then she read it as text.
I did the same thing. I thought that was it.
No.
Text. Because
our producer's ignoring us because she's like, you guys are so terrible. But anyhow.
I'm learning it. I'm studying it. Yeah, every day, every
Yes.
week. It's harder than it seems.
It is. So, all right. So that's what's happening on the music front.
Yeah.
Moving to the realm of acting, what's happening here?
I think I haven't seen him in a while. Actor Bae Yong-joon of the 2002 hit drama Winter Sonata, 겨울연가.
I saw that. I did see that.
Now we're talking. I mean, this is my generation right here. He has donated 3 billion won to a leading medical institution. Medical sources said Sunday. Bae Yong-joon's donation was revealed in the December edition of a newsletter published by the institution, Yonsei University Health System. Bae said that at the time. Bae said at the time that he hopes the Yonsei University Health System, or YUHS, will continually develop as a leading medical institution, and the donation will be used to help create a world where everyone, including children from low-income families, is healthy. YUHS affiliates include Severance Hospital, Gangnam Severance Hospital, and Yongin Severance Hospital. Yeah. So a big donation from our beloved
it was just
actor
out of the
Bae
blue.
Yong-joon. Out of the blue, but it's still good to see him back because, after all that talk about, TXT and all sorts of difficult pronunciations, Bae Yong-joon is something that we can pronounce.
Yes, thank goodness. We know what it is, who he is, and what the name pronounced like. So.
Winter Sonata, I mean, it brings that nostalgic
Why did he stop
feeling.
acting?
I don't know why. But Winter Sonata has been such a success. Maybe he doesn't have to work anymore.
Apparently. He can
부럽다.
retire.
정말 부럽습니다.
네, 저도 그러고 싶네요.
네.
자. All right, we're going to call it a wrap for today's Showbiz Buzz. And so I wish you a very happy week. And thank you for,
You
of
too.
course, all the really, interesting news. And have a good one.
You too.
All right, everybody. This was Michael. And it's time to wrap up hour number 1 as requested by Buddy. Oh, one of my favorites. This is 선물 by Melomonks. Enjoy. I'll be back at 8.
빛이 들어오면 자연스레 뜨던 눈 그렇게 너의 눈빛을 보곤 사랑의 눈을 떴어 항상 알고 있던 것들도 어딘가 새롭게 바뀐 것 같아 남의 얘기 같던 설레는 일들이 내게 일어나고 있어 나에게만 준비된 선물 같아 자그마한 모든 게 커져만 가 항상 평범했던 이 일상도 특별해지는 이 순간 별 생각 없이 지나치던 것들이 이제는 오마냥 내겐 예뻐 보이고 내 맘을 설레게 해 항상 어두웠던 것들도 어딘가 빛나고 있는 것 같아 남의 얘기 같던 설레는 일들이 내게 일어나고 있어 나에게만 준비된 선물 같아 자그마한 모든 게 커져만 가 항상
소비자를 향해 정확히 날아가는 광고. 힘차게 돌아가는 경제. 부메랑처럼 다시 기업의 이익으로 되돌아오니까요. 방송 광고, 경제에 큰 힘이 됩니다. 부산 방송광고발전협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
Good morning,
Dynamic Busan.
Yeah, you're waking up. Time to shake it up. Tell the world good morning and find out what's going on.
Well, hi there, folks. There's everything from comedy to lively chat to music.
Broadcasting from a room about the size of your closet.
All calls are recorded.
What show is this?
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
I'm sorry, who'd you say you were?
The time is now 8 o'clock. It's time for news highlights. Pro and anti-impeachment rallies held in historic street in Gwangju. Crowds of protesters held rallies on the historic street of the May 18th pro-democracy uprising in Gwangju on Saturday, both for and against the ouster of President Yoon Suk-yeol. Some 10,000 people gathered at Kumnam-no for a prayer rally organized by a conservative Christian group in support of the president. Kumnam-no is the historical street emblematic of the May 18th pro-democracy uprising, where many people were killed in the brutal military crackdown under Chun Doo-hwan. Just across the police buses, some 20,000 gathered calling for President Yoon's impeachment and denouncing far-right forces for using this historic site to advocate for martial law imposition. Busan hotel fire likely started in utility room. A joint investigation revealed that a deadly fire at the Banyantree Hotel construction site in K-ja동cha County that killed 6 people and injured 27 likely started in a utility room for plumbing equipment. A team of police, firefighters, and other relevant agencies conducted an on-site investigation yesterday and is gathering witness testimony along with CCTV evidence. Officials said the joint probe is expected to focus on figuring out the reason that the 6 victims on the first floor died. U.S. Secretary of State affirms confidence in acting President Choi Sang-mok. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Saturday affirmed his confidence in South Korea's acting President Choi Sang-mok and the strength of the bilateral alliance, and reiterated America's commitment to the complete denuclearization of North Korea. Rubio made the remarks during bilateral talks with the South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol on the margins of the Munich Security Conference in Germany. It marked the first in-person meeting since the secretary took office last month. It marked the first time that a top Trump administration official has expressed his or her confidence in South Korea's acting president. U.S. President Donald Trump has made no mention or public mention of Choi, with no direct communication held between the two leaders. Coast Guard finds 2 suspected victims of fishing boat fire. The Coast Guard has found 2 bodies that are suspected of being among those missing from a fishing boat fire in waters off the southwestern coast of Puan last Thursday. The 34-ton fishing vessel caught fire in waters near Puan, with 7 people missing and 5 rescued. The Coast Guard will conduct DNA testing to identify the bodies while continuing search efforts for the remaining missing persons. Ukraine won't attend U.S.-Russia talks in Saudi Arabia. Ukrainian officials will not attend U.S.-Russia talks to be held in Saudi Arabia in the coming days, as President Volodymyr Zelensky says he would not accept any deal without his country's input. Zelensky warned that Russia would wage war against NATO if the U.S. stepped back from its support of Ukraine. Top U.S. foreign policy advisors are traveling to Saudi Arabia soon for discussions, and European leaders are meeting in France for an emergency summit. And this was News Highlights. It's time for Wagga Wagga. We have Haley back in the studio.
Hello, hello.
So I've been schooled. I had no idea what dance skins. I was like he wants money for what?
Is he a dancer?
We're talking about Umberto, who says that his son wants like money, cash, right? For like dance skins. And I was like, what's that? Like leotards?
Right.
Like,
I only knew because I saw the brand, like the name of the something night dance skins. I was like, oh, it's gaming. Yeah.
The game I know.
That's all I know.
That's exactly. That's where our knowledge ends. But now we know, apparently, according to Benny, really expensive.
Oh.
So hence.
How expensive?
I don't know.
Maybe we shouldn't know. Like, it's better for us not to know.
Because then it would probably bother us.
Right.
Like all day. We're like, why do they want to spend
really?
money on
You want to
that?
spend that much on like virtual dancing?
Yes. And I have a lovely message I want to read from Tommy because he says, when I graduated from high school, my grandma, his grandmother, whom he mentions very often, from Busan, bought a very, very expensive suit for him. Ooh. And he says, I still wear it. It is the most expensive thing I've ever owned. And like all of us, Leslie, you and I were both like, you can still fit into your high school suit? That's amazing.
That's incredible.
And then his follow-up. Well, I wear it for my job interviews in the U.S. and here, it's also like a guardian angel.
Aww.
And then he says, when I was a high schooler, no exercise, only studying, so my body was not that nice. 아직도 맞대요, 그 양복이요. 할머니가 사주신 양복 when he graduated from high school.
It's really, really sweet.
And he considers it like a good luck
she
charm.
must love it that he wears it still all the time.
That's so sweet.
That's lovely.
Yes.
He did want to flick us because we remind him of like 바둑돌, but
by the way, it's not black. It's navy blue. 바둑은 isn't it black and white?
But yeah.
그럼 우리를 어떻게 flick하려고 생각해요?
Yeah, like what's that game? Yeah, where you flick. Yeah.
참
The man has dimensions, let's just say.
All right, let's get to our first story. So protests over President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment continue. And a supporter in costume apparently tried to break into the Chinese embassy in Seoul.
Right, so you covered the protests in Gwangju. We're going to take it back to Seoul. So on Friday around 7:30, a man in his 40s, surnamed An, he tried to enter the Chinese embassy in Myeongdong while the door was open for a brief time.
Right.
And he was arrested on the spot for attempted trespassing.
Indeed.
The man was dressed up as the character Captain America. And you can see him, at least parts of him, with the shield and everything. So it's a full getup and allegedly threatened to commit an act of terrorism against the embassy. So after he was arrested, An wrote on his social media that he was trying to convey this anti-China message, what he claims is the general public sentiment to the embassy.
Yes.
And he later wrote that he was let go without a warning, claiming that this was victory for justice. That is not true, by the way. The police didn't detain him, but they are still investigating the case, so he may be still charged. This same man previously dressed up as Captain America and was at the National Human Rights Commission building last week when a major meeting was set to take place and allegedly blocked the elevator to try to prevent some of the Human Rights Commission members from getting to the meeting.
Yes.
By the way, the Chinese embassy, they expressed their concerns and regrets and passed their sentiments along to the South Korean government.
So that's just one facet of what's going on.
Yeah.
The overall picture.
The waggly aspect of that.
All right, next up, the U.S. Senate confirmed Robert F. Kennedy as the new health secretary to the objections of Democrats. He's been known to espouse some controversial views, theories, right?
Right.
And so we've talked about his stance on vaccines and other issues, but there's another one that's getting a lot of attention in the U.S., and the whole topic is raw milk.
Right. So this is 생우유, and this is thankfully not a thing in South Korea. But 생우유 basically is unpasteurized, 살균되지 않은 우유.
Right.
So RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., so there's MAGA, Make America Great Again. His byline is MAHA, Make America Healthy Again.
Yes.
So this includes a variety of platforms ranging from the more reasonable to the less so. To name a few, he's been very critical of processed foods and food dyes, but also has come out in support of this raw milk. So let's talk about pasteurization, this 살균. It's a heat treatment process that kills harmful bacteria and viruses in food beverages.
Right.
However, Kennedy has criticized the U.S. Food and Drug Safety Administration for its quote-unquote war on public health, and his words includes pasteurization.
But this whole debate over raw milk goes beyond Kennedy, because I've seen like social influencers pushing this whole raw milk thing.
Right. So this has come out of these so-called social media wellness circles. And please note that I am using air quotes around them.
Yes.
Because some people claim that it has health benefits, including reducing gut inflammation.
Right.
That it contains vitamins that are killed in the heating and the pasteurization process, and nutrients that the milk that we drink, pasteurized milk, doesn't. And it can even cure lactose intolerance, which is unsubstantiated. There's no evidence. Here's what experts say, that raw milk is more likely to cause serious foodborne illnesses. It risks exposure to harmful bacteria, including E. coli, salmonella, and this is all according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC.
Okay.
So pasteurization, why in the 21st century this is controversial? Because it goes back to the 19th century when food poisoning and foodborne illnesses were one of the 10 leading causes of death in the U.S. So pasteurization, well, like many other scientific advances, saves lives, but sometimes this is taken for granted. So the thing is, will this position change under the new health minister? In the U.S., a few states explicitly ban raw milk.
Yes.
And by the way, and this goes back to one of our expert interviews from last week,
right?
Bird flu is, and because cows are now getting infected with bird flu.
Yes.
If the milk is not pasteurized, that also carries risks of having bird flu in the milk.
Right. So it can be quite serious.
Right. So overall, I mean, thankfully, once again, raw milk isn't really a thing in South Korea, but always take the advice you get on social media when it comes to health with a grain of salt. The person could have a blue check next to their name, but that's not a blue check given by, a government agency or a licensing bureau. It's that they have many followers.
And most of them are not doctors.
No, they are not.
Yes, just saying. All right, let's go to the UK for this bizarre story. A British judge has ruled to release the name of a man who claims to have fathered, are you ready for this, more than 180 children. Whoa.
Right. So
really?
obviously that's through sperm donation.
Okay.
Right. So this is right. This is a now infamous Joe donor. His real name is Robert Charles Albon, who claims to have fathered over 180 children worldwide. So a British judge released his name in a rare case. They don't really release names, but as a warning to other women considering buying sperm from this man. So Albon is he's American who lives in England. He offers to and he still does. He offers to donate sperm across social media, which I'm like, that's legal.
I don't know.
So because the thing is, if
is that him?
That's him. If you
is
donate,
he a doctor?
No, he's just scrubs for. I think,
for donating.
Yeah. I think, or just to increase his credibility.
Okay.
Regulators, if you do go through the usual channels of, clinics and fertility clinics, there's a cap on the number of sperm a donor may, give because of genetic reasons. We don't want 180 children fathered by the same man.
And because there's always a chance, especially if you're in one area, that those children might meet and date.
Exactly.
And procreate.
And that is a genetic problem. And I think we've covered similar stories, right? So the thing is, because he was donating through unregulated means, it seems that he could and he intends to donate multiple times.
So he's going to continue. So as unconventional as his figure of 180 donations plus is there's another kind of twist in the story, right?
Right, because so why did this case go to the court and why did the judge release his name? Because he now claims parental rights.
Oh, over those 180 children?
At least one.
At least one.
Okay. So he sued a same-sex couple in Britain for parental rights, including, he says now his name should be on the child's birth certificate as the father.
Okay.
By the way, he has also asked for, because he donated sperm and one of the two moms is the biological mother, he claims that the non-biological mom should be called auntie or auntie, 이모. Despite, of course, her having been present at the birth, and she is called mom by the child and is actively raising the child.
What did the judge say?
Thankfully rejected these claims, and the judge called his actions as seeking to control while pretending to protect the welfare of the child.
Very interesting is where we'll leave it. Such a woggly story.
So that's why regulations exist for a reason.
Yes. Indeed. Well, we're going to tell me this is a positive story. Because we have one more. Okay.
Yes.
Thank goodness. Okay, so what's it about?
Right. So this, by the way, happened about a little over a year ago, but it's kind of surfacing and resurfacing now. And, we definitely need a positive end to all of this.
It's Monday.
So social workers, they're often swamped. Social work is kind of one of those peak, like underappreciated, underpaid, but overworked professions.
Okay.
But this particular person really went above and beyond. So we're coming back to South Korea, originally posted on the professional's website Blind. So this public official says that an older man with hearing impairment came to his or their office.
Okay.
Saying that he has been diagnosed with cancer. But because he doesn't have any family, the hospital won't treat him. And he, of course, needed help with interpretation.
Yes.
So this official, for a full year, really dove into the case, being his interpreter, researcher, communications, taking him to different tests, getting him admitted to hospitals, sitting next to him through surgery and doctor's consultations post-surgery.
Wow.
Unfortunately, though, this elder man, his cancer progressed and he went into hospice care. But before he did, he wrote this official a letter and gave it to them with a box of peaches, saying that I will always be thankful for what you did and remember your consideration. Sorry that my gift is so small compared to what you did for me. The official soon after learned that the man passed away, but they said this was a really hot day, but they remember the feeling of holding his hand and walking across this very crowded university hospital's hallway and being there for 2 to 3 hours. So very, but even if they could turn back time, and they would do this over and over again.
You said this was a happy story.
Well, it's a story that restores your faith in humanity. Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That was sad, though.
It was sad, but at least it's, better than people espousing fake news online.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. To lighten our spirits, Tommy has one more message for us. He says, Catherine, Haley, don't run. If you guys run together, it can be 바둑이. Dun-dun-dun. Are you calling us a dog now? I don't know. But okay. Well, enough of the Aja gags. Thank you for all the woggly news. We'll check in with you tomorrow, Haley.
Have a great day.
And back to you, the listeners, for your traffic and weather. It is now time for your updated traffic report. There is some congestion detected on 중앙대로 from 두실 Station to 동래 Station. Also, some traffic building up on 반송로 from 영산대 Station to 충렬사 intersection. It's also looking slow on 만덕대로 from 미남 intersection to the Namhae Expressway ramp. Also backed up on 번영로 from the Wondong interchange to Bunhyun ramp. Currently, it is 3. It's going to go up to 8. However, with the wind chill factor, it's going to feel much colder than that. There is a dry weather special alert in place over Busan across the country. So it feels much colder than yesterday because there's a sudden drop in temperatures by anywhere between 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, depending on where you are, because of the strong winds. And this was your traffic and weather. And this is 새들처럼 by FT Island.
열린 공간 속을 가르며 달려가는 자동차와 석양에 비추인 사람들
또 위를 달리는 자동차 분주한 발걸음으로 붐비는 도심 속의 거리 숲속의 나무들처럼 빽빽한 빌딩들 사이 화려한 네온 사인 오늘은 이 도시 위를 날고 싶어 Come on.
날아가는 새들 바라보며 나도 따라 날아가고 싶어 파란 하늘 아래서 자유롭게 나도 따라가고 싶어 저 하늘 날아보고 싶어 오는 듯 만지고 싶어 저기 구름을
yes I wanna touch the cloud 하늘보다 낮으니까 내 손가락 끝이 구름 끝에 닿을 수 있다면
답답한 도시를 떠나고 싶어도 나는 갈 수 없네 날아가는 새들 바라보며 나도 따라 날아가고 싶어 파란 하늘 아래서 자유롭게 나도 따라가고 싶어
오늘 답답한 일상에서 떠나보고 싶어 Let's get out out 이곳에서 벗어나고 싶어 now 저 하늘 위에 날 위해 뭔가 있을 것만 같아 저 하늘의 새들처럼 하늘 날자 fly high
날개를 펼쳐봐 하늘만 바라봐 용기 낼 수 있다면 넌 낼 수 있어 날아가는 새들 바라보며 나도 따라 날아가고 싶어 파란 하늘 아래서 자유롭게 나도 따라가고 싶어 날아가는 새들 바라보며 나도 따라 날아가고 싶어 파란 하늘 아래서 자유롭게 나도 따라가고 싶어
Welcome back, everybody. For a text topic, we've been talking about like graduation season and graduation gifts. So I was kind of thinking back to my multiple graduations and what I got. Back in the day, it was nothing extravagant. For elementary into like junior, well, we used to call it junior high school, to middle school, it was like a new backpack, school supplies. It was pretty much the same every year, except for the fact that I went to a public school. So maybe there were some, there were always like, it was like back to school shopping season, like right around August. So maybe, going up to like a new school, like to junior high school or to high school, there was some extra clothes that were bought because, you're entering a new phase of your life. But definitely when I graduated from high school, yes, computer is what I got for, because you got lots of papers to write and things like that. But these days, I think looking at some of your messages, cash is always popular. And also those gift certificates as well. But many people saying, back in the day, they got backpacks. If anything, it didn't have to be like a name brand, but just a backpack. And somebody mentioned Jordan jeans. Do you know which ones? You know which ones I'm talking about, right? I guess they were really popular, not just stateside, but here in Korea as well. Back in my day, you know what? I can't say their brand names, but the question mark brand, that was like really popular back in my day, and they're still around. I saw the brand here in Korea as well with the little triangle. Yeah. All right, so let's get to our special interview to find out what's happening with this whole Ukraine-Russia situation. I'll be back in a moment. As we speak, European leaders are convening an emergency meeting to address the escalating tensions surrounding ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has called the formation of a European army, emphasizing the need for collective security and autonomy in defense measures and matters. Meanwhile, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has defended Europe's approach to democracy in response to recent criticism from U.S. President or Vice President J.D. Vance. So this summit aims to unify European strategies and responses to the evolving geopolitical landscape. And we just heard in the news, right, that Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, that they'll be likely meeting in Saudi Arabia for a face-to-face meeting after that phone call that they had recently as well. Let's find out more about this situation. We have invited back to the airwaves Aurel Braun, who is Professor of International Relations and Political Science at the University of Toronto. Hi, welcome back, Professor.
Hello.
Yes. So, Professor, can you tell us what the primary objectives of this European Emergency Summit concerning the Ukraine conflict? What is this all about?
The transatlantic relationship is in deep crisis. And Mr. Trump is living up to what he had said, that he wants to be the great disruptor. And indeed, he is causing disruption and disturbances that can have very long, deleterious impacts. And in many ways, I think it is right to be critical of some of what he is doing, because I think he is creating certain dangers that perhaps he is not being made sufficiently aware of, where he might be misadvised by some of the people around him. But I think it is important to understand also that there are two realities at work. And those two realities mean that we have to, at one level, force ourselves to separate Mr. Trump's provocative, bombastic rhetoric from certain realities. And the first reality is that Europe now, collectively, and Europe is not homogeneous, but overall, Europe now is in deep alarm over Russia. But this is recent, and yet the Russian threat has been there for a long time. And so Europe is coming to this realization a little late. And now there's almost a kind of panic because they had counted on an unconditional American umbrella. Second, we should remember that the interdependence that Europe, Western Europe in particular, allowed itself to enter into with Russia, which has helped Russia, was due to the fact that people like Chancellor Angela Merkel, who in many ways did wonderful things for Germany, showed smug contempt for all the warnings that were coming from the United States about the dangers of that economic interdependence and of helping Russia. And third, I think we also have to recognize that Europe has become wealthy, that they're able to do much more for their defense, that the NATO summit in Wales in 2014 talked about the NATO states reaching a minimum of 2% of GDP spending on defense. It was to be the floor, not the ceiling. So some of the Europeans are acting shocked that they should be spending more, but if they clearly understand the threat to be as dire, and it is in their neighborhood, it will be understandable that they should spend more on it. And also we have a situation, particularly that the United States wants to shift away to the Chinese threat, and consequently, they want to focus on that. So that's the reality from the European perspective. If you want to look at the silver lining, it's also the case that the United States under Mr. Trump will massively increase defense spending, including on nuclear weapons and on missile defense. And he also wants to make United States energy dominant, which will drive down energy prices, which will be very harmful to the Russian economy. So this will not benefit Mr. Putin. But at the same time, another reality. And that other reality is what rightfully alarms the Europeans, which is rightfully something that should concern everyone. And that is that Mr. Trump may not understand geopolitics in a way that he should. This is not something that involves real estate deals in New York. So in this kind of situation, he wants to be Churchill. He brought back the bust of Churchill into the Oval Office, which had been removed. He doesn't want to be Chamberlain. He would like to get the Nobel Prize. But if he shows weakness in one area in Europe and makes preemptive concessions to Russia, as he's seemingly doing now, it would be very difficult to have credible strength in the Far East when it comes to China. It doesn't work that way. And also the case that Europe simply cannot scale up quickly enough to face Russia. And certainly when it comes to nuclear weapons, only the United States had that capacity. Because if you look at the two nuclear powers in Western Europe, France and Britain, their combined arsenals are very small compared to that of Russia. Only the U.S. can match it. So this is the other reality that Mr. Trump doesn't seem to appreciate. And this is the Europeans are trying to find ways. But I am not very optimistic that there can be a European alternative without the continuing involvement of the United States.
Indeed, Professor. So this whole idea of, President Zelensky calling for, some sort of European army, I mean, is this even feasible? Because as you just pointed out through several of your points, the U.S. is such a key player, a stakeholder in everything that's happening.
The United States really is the indispensable nation. And it is indispensable not only in the Far East, where to a certain degree it is correct to have a greater emphasis because China has become a huge, huge threat. Not just to the United States, but to Japan, to South Korea, to the Philippines, even to Vietnam.
Yes.
But the reality is that in Europe, the United States is needed because of the continuing nuclear umbrella of extended deterrence, and also because when it comes to hard security guarantees, it operates on the basis of credibility.
Yes.
So Mr. Macron has certain fantasies that he somehow will lead an alliance that will build an alternative or an equal to the United States in terms of the military in Europe. But when you look at, for example, Spain, and you look at Italy, they're not even meeting the 2% mark. And if you are looking at the military industries in Europe, they've been so run down because Europe has not faced a threat that has been there going back at least to 2014 when Russia first invaded Ukraine, or even 2008 when Russia invaded Georgia.
Yes.
That to build those necessary industries, Europe would take a long time. And consequently, even if somehow Europe would be able to do this, it will not be able to do so for many, many years.
Indeed. And so in terms of what's been happening away from this situation with emergency summit in Europe, also we heard about President Donald Trump and his phone call with Vladimir Putin. And now there are, supposed talks that might be happening face-to-face between Trump and Putin, likely to take place in Saudi Arabia. And so it seems that President Vladimir Zelensky has already come out and said, any talk without Ukraine being involved, that that he would not even consider that a real talk. So what do you make of the situation between Trump and Putin and their supposed face-to-face meetup coming up real soon?
At the moment, what Mr. Trump is doing is that he is giving gift after gift to Vladimir Putin without anything in return. And he somehow is hoping that charm, through perhaps more subtle threats, he can achieve something great, ultimate peace. But this is not the reality. So it's not as if we didn't have similar experiences, especially back in 1938.
Yes.
When we had Chamberlain and Daladier negotiate without Czechoslovakia. Now, Ukraine has shed an enormous amount of blood. Mr. Zelensky is really a Churchillian figure. Ukraine has stood up against the Russian threat, and they have shown that Russia is not a superpower, that Russia is a remnant of the Soviet Union. There's no point in treating it like an equal superpower, which somehow Mr. Trump seems to be doing. And consequently, what Mr. Zelensky is saying, I am not going to accept any agreement that you make without the involvement of Ukraine. In short, what he's saying more subtly is Ukraine is not prepared to play Czechoslovakia in 1938.
I see. Well, what are the different countries, for example, even France and Ireland, how are their roles in Europe kind of changing or shaping the agenda right now?
We have a very important election coming up in Germany. Germany is the crucial player. And Germany has been late, but has become very supportive of Ukraine. But they've not scaled up their military expenditures and their production as far as they could or should have. A new chancellor coming in from the Christian Democratic Party might begin to do that, and he's very strong on Ukraine. If anybody could provide some leadership in Europe to move Europe to scale up, it would be Germany, and perhaps that would be something positive. That is the kind of silver lining that in his very clumsy, perhaps obnoxious way, Mr. Trump has forced the Europeans to do what they should have been doing a long time ago, but that's not going to happen overnight. The French President Macron is all over the place.
Yes.
At one point, he tells us that Russia should not be humiliated. At another point, he says that there is no substitute to victory. At one point, he says that there has to be a European leg of the alliance. At another point, he seems to be suggesting that there could be a substitute for United States. And his own standing in France is so weak that I do not think he has much credibility. Perhaps Ms. Meloni, who leads Italy, will be the interlocutor. She seems to have a relationship with Mr. Trump, and Mr. Trump tends to personalize relations. And so I think it's premature to panic, but there are reasons for concern. And I think Mr. Putin also has a history of overplaying his hand.
Yes.
So if the Russians operate on the basis this is going to be a smooth, easy win, I think they may be in for some shocks. This is not to say we should not be extremely weary about direct negotiations between the United States and Russia with the exclusion of Ukraine, or that we should not be concerned about the fact that the Europeans are not sufficiently unified, or that we should not be concerned about the fact that China looks at what the United States is doing in Europe and reads exactly the opposite of the intent of what Mr. Trump wants to show, and that is enormous strength.
Yes.
So these are the red flags that are going up. And I hope that Mr. Trump will listen to his more geopolitically attuned advisors, rather than some of the advice he might be getting from people in social media who, whenever they have spoken about Ukraine, they have shown a profound misunderstanding of the reality of what is happening in Europe, even though one can understand the frustration in the United States, not just in the case of Mr. Trump, but with presidents going way, way back, with Europe not contributing enough to their own defense.
Yes, yes. And so for our final wrap-up question today, Professor, it does seem that there are diverse perspectives, obviously, among the EU member states, depending on what kind of leadership each respective country has right now. Is it likely that any sort of consensus might be reached during this emergency summit?
It will be difficult to see because there are the contours of a consensus, but then there are some disruptors within Europe as well.
Yes.
And let's not forget that decisions are made in Europe on the basis almost of unanimity. So small countries like the leader of Hungary could disrupt this. Or Mr. Erdogan. You will recall that when Sweden and Finland wanted to join NATO, eventually they did, what obstacles, in some ways blackmail, that was employed by Viktor Orban of Hungary and Mr. Erdogan of Turkey. And this is a problem. And so the Europeans do have to show more unity.
Yes.
And to show more determination. So it may be that some of the key countries will have to significantly make a significantly greater effort on their own and not be through an absolute consensus. So we have to see what happens. On the 23rd, there is that election in Germany. I think that is something really crucial for us to watch.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on that indeed. Thank you so much for coming on air with us and sharing the latest on what's happening in this region of the world. Thank you so much. Take care, Professor.
Thank you.
And this was our special interview with Professor Aurel Braun.
Get your local up-to-date news from Korea and abroad right here on Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Stay tuned.
It is now time for Business Perspectives, which means Bobby's here. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, so real quick, I want to ask you about graduation gifts because I know your kiddies are in the U.S. So what's kind of trendy for graduation gifts in the U.S.?
I would love to get some ideas here.
What are your kids asking for?
All right. So we did, well, our daughter, so we did something different for Christmas. She wanted a big gift. So
what's
she
big?
wanted coffee, like one of these nicer coffee makers, coffee machines.
She wanted a coffee maker.
Yeah. And
she's graduating from high school.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So we said, okay, we'll buy it for you, but it's bundled between Christmas and your graduation gift.
Oh.
So she could take it to her dorm room.
I see. So it was kind of like a combined.
Yes.
Oh,
So,
smart of you.
Yeah, so that's what she got for Christmas. She was really excited. Hopefully she won't be let down when she graduates and there's nothing else, but that was the deal.
That was the deal. Are you going to keep to that deal?
Oh, of course. Now we'll have a nice meal, but but the gift-wise.
She's graduating what, in May or June?
In May.
Yeah. It's like when back in the day it was in June for us. But now it's like
it's getting
because it was always like around Father's Day, I remember.
That's
but now
right.
it's in May.
Yes. Before Memorial Day too. So
Right.
really early.
Has she applied?
Yes.
Any early acceptances?
Not yet. So we're still waiting.
Oh. How many did she apply to?
She
Could I
applied
ask?
to 7. 7 schools. Yes.
And so she's waiting.
Yes.
So nowadays, all the acceptance, everything's done online, right?
Yes.
None of the
like
paper.
The Common App. It's like
Yeah.
It's really simple. From that regard, it's simple.
It's simple.
Yes. Many schools.
Back in our day,
Each one.
it's like the thin meant rejection. You know, right?
Yes.
And the thick one meant, I'm in.
I got a lot of thin ones.
You did not. You did not. I don't believe that for a second. All right, let's jump into. Oh, by the way, congratulations to your daughter ahead of time, and of course to the family. Yes,
Thank you. Yeah. big one.
So, what are we talking about today?
All right. The topic for this week is a spotlight and a person, and on an industry that got started from this person.
Oh.
So I'm going to throw out this name, and I am going to assume 100%.
Yes.
There's no way and chance anyone would know this person's name.
Okay. Let's see. Let's
So-
throw it out there.
so
And you cannot
for-
Google him.
Yeah. So for all of our morning wavers out there, no AI usage, no internet.
Don't use internet.
All right. The name is Malcolm McLean.
Okay.
Any thoughts come to mind out there?
Not at all.
Nothing for you, Catherine.
Malcolm McLean?
Yes.
No.
And here's a little tip.
Okay.
Shipping containers.
Wait, are we talking about like McLean Klusky? No. McLean.
Yeah.
McLean.
No,
something?
No, they didn't have it. Well,
they don't-
no, yeah.
Yeah. Shipping. Okay.
So shipping containers.
That's what we're talking about?
Yes. We're going to spotlight this man. So it's an interesting story. So let's start with a little background. So was there any texters or
No.
anybody? Okay. So Malcolm McLean, who is he?
Crickets chirping. Yes. Who is Malcolm McLean?
So he was born in Maxton, North Carolina in 1913.
I'm assuming he's not with us anymore.
No, he's
Okay.
not. He was an American businessman, invented the modern intermodal shipping container.
Like the ones that we know today, shipping containers?
In Busan Port, yes.
so many. Yes. Okay.
All right. It's revolutionized the transport and international trade since the 1950s.
Ooh, okay.
Containerization, as we call it today.
That's a long word.
Yes. Led to significant cost reductions of freight transportation.
Okay.
So it eliminated the repeated handling of individual pieces of cargo, right?
True.
Improved overall reliability, reduced cargo theft, cut inventory costs by shortening the transit time.
Okay.
And also a huge driver of globalization.
When you think about it, this is really important. Containerization.
Yes.
Is the word.
And
right?
I always thought that they were been around for a while, but
right.
yes.
Okay.
So if you think about it, prior to containerization, items got to the port in a loose fashion.
Oh, that's true.
Right?
Right.
And so they had, a lot of longshoremen were working on the docks to take these goods, unpack them, bundle them back up, and then put them onto the ship.
Right, now
and
that we think about it.
if you think about it, containers these days are what, 20 foot, 40 foot?
Yeah.
But back then it was all different various shapes and sizes.
Oh my gosh. It wasn't even like one size.
No standardization. Right?
So how did he get a start?
So in 1935, Mr. McLean, he graduated from high school, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Now, his family did not have much money.
Okay.
And they didn't have enough to send him to college. They did have enough money for him to buy a used truck.
Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's where it began.
So in that same year, Malcolm, along with his sister and brother, they founded the McLean Trucking Company.
Okay.
And they started hauling empty tobacco barrels. And Mr. McLean was one of its drivers. So let's jump forward maybe 15 years to the early 50s. They built their business up to over 1,700 trucks.
Right.
With 37 transport terminals along the eastern seaboard of the U.S. They were the largest trucking fleet in the southern region of the U.S. And also the fifth largest in the overall country.
Okay.
So significant strides in growth.
Right.
Now, in the early 50s, the trucking business was maturing.
Okay.
And states started to enforce weight restrictions. And they also levied fines so that these trailers that passed through multiple states could be fined for excessively heavy loads.
Sure.
Still goes on today.
Right.
So for trucking companies, it was really a game of how to haul as much weight as possible without getting much fees. Right? Now, this is where Mr. McLean got triggered to think that there must be a more efficient way to transport cargo.
Here he comes.
And what got into his mind after all this experience were the shipping vessels that ran along the U.S. coastline. And so from his days of trucking, he believed that the ships could be more cost effective really around the weight restrictions.
Okay.
Additionally, he figured, hey, what about less expenses because we don't have to deal with these truck equipment as much, such as wear and tear on tires, chassis repairs, drivers. It was just a trailer. Also, shipping on a truck, it's one load per truck.
Yes.
But on a ship, it could be multiple trailers.
Oh, yeah,
on a ship.
definitely.
So these ideas started popping in his head, right?
But he wouldn't have had those ideas had he not started with trucking.
That's right.
Yes.
So,
I mean, to jump from just like null, nothing, anything, void, blank piece of paper to just like
right away,
it would have been difficult.
A lot of experience went into this thought.
Okay.
Now, let's take a little break into action.
Okay.
And talk about just the modern day container, how it got its start.
Okay.
So containerization, some say the origins go back to early coal mining regions in England, beginning in the late 18th century.
Oh.
Where they call it a box boat. They had like 10 wooden containers that were used to transport coal via canal.
Okay.
And when they got to dock, these barges, then there would be horse-drawn wagons that would also have their own form of a container where the barges would offload their coal onto these wagons and then take it to the next destination.
I see.
Okay. Now, jump forward to the 1900s.
Sure.
In the 1920s, there were luxury passenger trains operating between London and Paris.
Okay.
people would be on the trains. In addition, the luggage of these passengers were separately transported on 4 containers that were put on flatbeds. So if you think about it, it's like today, the cargo area on the underbelly of a modern airplane.
Got it. I definitely get it.
Another form of a container.
Right.
Now, before World War II, and prior to this modern containerization, where we know of these 40-foot containers, there was a practice of transporting the full truck with its load on ships. So the whole vehicle along with the goods.
Okay.
Right? So that's kind of how containerization.
Yes.
Now, going back to Mr. McLean.
Okay, so let's go back to him.
So in the early 50s, he decided to use containers commercially. And by 1952, he developed a plan to carry his company's trucks on ships along the Atlantic coast from North Carolina to New York. But to him, it became obvious that these quote-unquote trailer ships, right, would be too inefficient because of the large waste of cargo space with the truck and the cargo. So this original concept was modified to just load the containers themselves. So
what did he do?
What he did was, well, he needed some cash.
Okay.
So he secured a bank loan.
For how much?
For $22 million in 1956.
Oh, that's a lot.
Which in today's dollars is...
Would be?
Over $255 million.
Ooh, okay.
And with that money, he bought 2 World War II oil tankers, which he converted to carry containers. So in April of 1956, a few months later, one of these converted oil tankers was loaded with 58 35-foot containers, and they were shipped from New Jersey down to Houston, Texas.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Now, the economic impact, Catherine,
how much
of this evolution.
Yes.
Right? So back then, hand loading a ship costed $5.86 a ton. But when you converted using containers, it cost only 16 cents a ton.
Oh my gosh.
To load a ship.
$5.86 to 16 cents per ton.
Yeah. So you think about all the people that were taken out, all the labor with the handwork. Gone.
Yes.
All right, and all just the time too. That it took. Not only that, it greatly reduced the time to load and unload. Right.
Yes.
And he understood that you only make money when the container is on the water, not waiting in the dock to get loaded or unloaded. Right.
I see.
So.
Wow.
A great first start. So a couple years later, they started expanding. So container service started happening between the U.S. and Puerto Rico. Then a couple years later, the company's name was officially changed to Sealand Service Incorporated, which, a little note, it eventually became Maersk. And Maersk is a huge name.
Now it sounds familiar. now it's all making sense.
Yeah, so that's the big tie-in, 1961. Okay, so it launched in 56.
Okay.
So in 61, they became profitable.
Okay.
So they continued to add routes and larger ships.
Sure.
And now in the 60s, the growth was slow, right? Because ports were not all up to speed and the right equipment with cranes to load and offload.
Right.
And it was a very traditional industry. So change was hard because people were stuck in traditional ways like having a lot of manual labor.
Right.
But they kept on growing. In April of 66, there was European expansion for the company. So they started service between New York, the Netherlands, Germany, and Scotland. In 67, there's Asian expansion.
Okay.
They were invited by the U.S. government to start service between U.S. and Vietnam. And by the end of the 60s, the company itself had 27,000 containers, 36 trailer ships, and access to over 30 ports internationally.
Wow. So, this is pretty amazing. And then as soon as you mentioned Maersk, we're like, that's that's the origin of that company.
Yes.
So if we jump forward, it went through lots of leaps and bounds of growth, I'm assuming, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So the size of the container industry now is over $8 billion.
Yes.
Crucial to international trade. In terms of the growth overall in 1980, overall 11 million metric tons were transported to containers.
Sure.
But by 2022, that jumped to 293 million metric tons.
My goodness.
And some of the big players in the industry.
Yes.
It's a very fragmented market, but there's a company called Mediterranean Shipping Company.
Mm-hmm.
There's also Maersk.
Yes.
And CMA CGM. They round out the top three.
Right.
In terms of a South Korean company, they came in 8th. Name is HMM.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if we talk about the phrase of the week, because this is like, to me, like the cherry on top. So how would you wrap up today's segment?
The phrase of the week, think outside the box. No pun intended.
Yes.
So,
But kind of, yeah.
Yes. It means to think creatively.
Yes.
Creatively without being constrained by conventional ideas. So, Mr. McLean was an out-of-the-box thinker as he built his business. But like we talked about earlier, he
Yes.
took a lot of ingrained knowledge and experience to also help think out of the box.
To elevate.
Absolutely. So, taking a little page for us today, I want to encourage all of us to see maybe as we go through our daily lives to stop for a moment to even look at the mundane things we do and see if there may be another or better way we can do it.
Oh.
Maybe it's a process at work. Maybe
Yes.
it's a weekly meeting that you have. How you handle chores at home. Take some extra time this week to see if you can do things differently based on some of your past experience. And I'd say surprise yourself because here's one note. I think if you do get in that mindset, more creative ideas then start to pop out as well.
I love it. Elevate.
Elevate, yes.
Got it.
Little encouragement to start off the week.
Oh, so interesting. And of course, a huge impact on, shipping all around the world, but Korea as well.
Consumer, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Big time.
Well, thank you so much for Business Perspectives, and we'll check in with you real soon. Thank you, Bobby.
Have a great week.
All right, everybody, it's time to wrap up our first day of the week back. It's Monday, of course, wishing you nothing but the best. Here is Recipe for Love. This is by Harry Connick Jr. Wishing you a wonderful day ahead. Bye, everybody.
Bit of me and a whole lot of you. Add a dash of starlight and a dozen roses too. Then let it rise for 100 years or two. And that's a recipe for making love. It doesn't need sugar cause it's already sweet. It doesn't need an oven cause it's got a lot of heat. Just add a dash of kisses to make it all complete. And that's the recipe for making love. And if you've made it right, you'll know it. It's not like anything you've made before. And if you've made it wrong, you'll know it. Cause it won't keep you coming back for more. I didn't get it from my grandma's book up on the shelf. I didn't get it from a magical and culinary elf. No, a little birdie told me that you can't make it by yourself. And that's a recipe for making love. Like anything you've made before. Cause it won't keep you coming back for more.